So I'm going to be the host for today. I wanted to talk about some stuff that we've kind of all been dealing with lately. It's been a big conversation in like our daily lives lately. And that is mental health. And I feel like it's important for all of us to regularly check in with each other and see where we're at mentally. I think that's really important for all of us to do. So I kind of wanted to do that. I want everyone to be super, super honest about how they're feeling. And Ethan.
That's how he feels.
Very, very honest, buddy. I'm proud of you.
But I want everyone to be super honest. Kendall, that includes you. So, and I also want us to talk about how we have been dealing with our mental health, how we've been preparing ourselves mentally, how we've been trying to better ourselves mentally, and we're going to get into that. Okay? Sound good? Okay. So, Ethan, we're going to check in with you first. Tell us how you are feeling, as honestly as you can possibly be. Be very self-aware. Look deep within yourself. How have you been feeling mentally about life?
I think a mix of 50 and 50 of like, sometimes I like get these like random thoughts or like maybe it's just one thought, but it feels like a bunch of them is going on. But it's kind of like just almost like I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Like damn, like time just passing by. But kind of like that aspect of just constantly worrying about shit. You know what I mean? Just worrying about your life, what you're gonna do, this and that. And then the other half is kind of like damn, like stop worrying about things you can't control so much. Worry about the things you can control. I have chill. I have a good time. At the same time, like stop stressing all the time. So, I mean, like stress can kill you and all this. Or it's, you know what I mean? Just it's like that. Like just either like I'm worrying constantly, or I'm like worrying about things I shouldn't be worrying about, or I'm not worrying about things I need to be worrying about. It's like a mix of just like it's kind of chaotic. But I mean, not constantly. Like I said, it's just little moments like my brain feels fogged up, where it feels like a bunch of thoughts going on at once, and I can't like singulate or whatever. I can't
single out.
Pick one out. Yeah, singulate. Can't single one out. Like it's just all of them. But it's not, like I said, it's not constantly, which I think is definitely. So it's definitely something that I'm like, I'm thankful for, that I'm not constantly like being negative, or I can be, but like I try not to be. Like if I catch myself doing it, like I try to correct it, and maybe go about it a better way. It's not too bad. I just know sometimes I let the negative thoughts overwhelm it, and so like that's when I'll get like an attitude, or I'll be in a pissy mood, and for no good reason either. It's just not good.
So would you say, Ethan, that you've been feeling like extra depressed or extra anxious about that, or is that something that you think about trying to, like, I know you said like that's something you try to work on and like try to remind yourself not to be that way about, like, how do you do that?
I think I just go about thinking about it a different way, because I think my biggest thing is the way I think and word things, and the way I put it into perspective for myself. I put it in such a way to where I feel like, oh, I'm just the most pessimistic view of it, like self-sabotaging.
Right.
Like literally just making it to where it's like, dude, you're making it seem like that. Like that's really not how it is. If you just look at it differently and approach it differently, and approach it with a different way of thinking about that particular thing or other things too, it'll help you look at it differently and not react the way that I would normally react, which is how I don't want to react. But it's just become such a part of me that like unsubconsciously I'm literally doing it. Like I'm not trying to, but that's what's happening. Now I'm noticing it, and so I'm trying to go about it differently, so I don't have those outbursts like that.
Do you think that that's something that you're going to try to seek help for, or is that something that you think you can manage on your own, or?
No, I think I can manage it on my own, and I want to, because I want to establish my own system. And I mean, you may not establish one for yourself that works right away. I mean, you might do one that's kind of like, you know what I mean? It's not good at first, but that's kind of just, you learn. Okay, well, that wasn't a great way to handle it, or damn, yeah, I really didn't like the way I went about it right there, or I don't like the way I'm like, feeling about that. So it's like, I think it just depends on how to like find a way that like is good for you to handle it. Because I mean, yeah, I don't think that it could get professional help from someone or someone like within a who's versed in that. But I just know I would just like to try and develop my own kind of system for it and see maybe I could get it right after all. Maybe.
You want to try on your own first and see how far you can get with that. I gotcha. Perfect. Kendall, where are you at mentally? How have you been feeling about everything? How have you been dealing with everything? Let's get into the nitty. Be honest with yourself. How have you been feeling? Depressed, anxious, socially awkward, overwhelmed?
Well, I'll always be socially awkward. That's never going to change. But the other stuff, though, I'm feeling pretty good actually.
Don't lie.
I am. I've been actually trying to find new things that would still feel good. I tried what's called meditation. You know that. You know what that is?
Everyone knows what meditation is.
I'm pretty sure everybody knows.
Well, not everyone. You can't speak for everyone, Kat.
I don't think everybody can do it correctly, but I think everybody knows what it is.
Normally, when people start meditation, they go to actual classes and stuff for it. So,
well, maybe it's not meditating, but I guess it's finding simple things to just ease my mind. Just
taking joy in the simple little things that you see in your everyday.
Yeah, you can do that kind of stuff without turning it into a meditation thing.
You're just taking a breather.
Yeah, taking a breather.
I feel meditative. That's not a word. It is now.
You're just you're just relaxing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I've been feeling more relaxed recently. I'm getting pretty good money now that I don't have to pay for that old fucking apartment sucking me dry. Not in a good way. I'm thinking about I have enough money. I'm trying to save enough money to buy maybe a car, maybe a new bike.
You definitely need a car. I would not go the bike route anymore for you.
All right.
I told you your investment idea was not smart, Kendall.
I'll invest in you.
I mean, even if you do a bike just for work, it doesn't help your actual issue. Your actual issue when it comes to transportation is you feeling like you can't do things with other people. So when it comes to a bike, you're not going to be able to go get Zana. You're not going to be able to bring all your groceries back in that. You're not going to, you know what I mean? So I think you need to cut your losses with the bike because you've done the bike thing before. And if you solely invest into a car, I think it's going to help you a lot more in the long run. Because I think I think you could use the money you're trying to spend on a bike, especially knowing you're not going to spend $30 on a bike. You're going to try to get you're not going to do that because it's not the kind of person you are. So I think if you invest yourself, it's like we were talking about a minute ago, Kendall, the long-term investment, investing into your future. I think you need to focus on doing that because I think because you keep talking about how you're fine, but I think a lot of your depression that comes from you not being able to go out and plan things with Donna, or you not being able to come over here, or, certain plans like that. It's your lack of mobility. And I think what you need for yourself and for your own sense of freedom and for your mental health is a vehicle. You have your own space now, and dealing with your finances and seeing how much financial space you have is great. But I think what you should probably do is set up a budget and a savings account and really invest towards putting a down payment on a car. A good, newer car. I'm not saying it has to be brand new. You can buy it used, but a newer year and invest in a car that's going to last you a long time so that you can do the things that you want to do that are not as accessible to you through bike. Because you're in this era in your life where you want to go out and you want to do things, you want to learn who you are. And a bike is just not going to be able to cut it, especially since you're in a committed relationship. What are you going to do? Put Zana on the bike? You know what I mean? Like,
Even if you got like a moped, it'd be a little bit better than a bike.
not even, just because again, it's a one-seated vehicle.
You can there are mopeds that are 2 seats.
Yeah,
that's
but
one
they're
thing that's
more
only slightly-
expensive.
I don't think you're
Yeah.
getting their point.
Yeah, the thing is, and then what, like groceries too, or being able to, like, or for carpooling somewhere. These are the things where it's like, you know, if you sat there and you think about all the times that you say, man, I wish I had a car, versus all the times you say, man, I wish I had a bike. You know what I mean? I don't think spending
Right.
the money on a bike is, I think the money that you want to spend on a bike, go ahead and put it up. I think what you should do is you should break down a budget and say, okay, this is how much I pay for rent. What you pay for rent, honestly, up it by $100. And what you pay for groceries, up that by $100. And what you pay for all your subscriptions and everything else, up that number by $100. Right? And
Right.
get the total of that number. That's the bare minimum that you need for all your essentials. Everything else, you can cut in half of it for your fun stuff, half of it for your savings. And if you want, after the podcast, we can get together, because me and Angel have a budget that we need to put together after the podcast. But we can all do that. But I think that's going to be a long term. I think that should be your goal for the next few months. I think with how much you work and with how much you make, I don't think it'll be very hard for you to do it. I think that you have a problem with, 1, self-control, and 2, budgeting, which kind of go hand in hand. But I think if you really work towards it, you could get yourself a car within the next 3 months. Especially with how much you make. I've seen your bank account statements. You could do it.
You have?
You've sent them to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did.
I have.
Wait, how'd you get that?
No, I've seen what your deposits look like. And so that's something that I think all of us need to do that, honestly. We should do an episode on that. But yeah. But I think car is going to be a better opportunity for you. But I feel like you're lying saying that you're fine, because you've been kind of a cunt lately. So
You get pissy pretty fast.
you have been getting kind of pissy pretty fast. I think you're depressed, and I think you need to see a therapist.
Good lord.
Well, hold on. Just stole the brakes.
Nope.
Just use
No.
the brakes.
No.
No, none, man. I can't do anything. I'm sorry. You're gonna. Have
I
to
can't
sit
do
here
it. I'm
and
in the same boat you are, Kendall. I get
We're on the
irritated
boat,
way too
dude.
fast.
And Angel has thought about going back to therapy. Honestly, I think everyone here should try therapy at least once. Me and Angel have both done it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
It'll be fun when you go to therapy.
I think
Kendall-
Ethan would like therapy, but I don't think he would like the kind of therapy that the rest of us do. I think he needs a different kind of therapy. There are many kinds of therapy. If you do, literally a simple Google search, and it will show you all the different kinds of therapy that there are. But I think Ethan I think he needs sit-down talk therapy, but I also think he needs, a professional psychiatric help. Just because, not in a bad way, not in a bad way. That sounds bad because a lot of people think that word is bad. But what I think Ethan honestly needs to do is I think he needs to sit down with a psychiatrist, be diagnosed with whatever OCD or ADHD or whatever it is that he has, because he has something.
Alzheimer's.
And no, not Alzheimer's. But I think Ethan has a hard time focusing on short-term goals, which is why he's always rushing and running out of time to do things, and he struggles with scheduling, like his time management. And I think if he sat down and he got that diagnosed, he could get actual help for things that would work for him personally. I think his situation's a little bit different. I'm pretty positive this boy has ADHD. I'm not a
There's
doctor.
no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, I'm
not a doctor, but
yeah, I'm not a doctor, but from what I've seen from Angel's ADHD, and I'm pretty positive. But I think if he, look at him, he's over here shaking his leg right now.
how did?
I can see it. You're literally shaking like the whole thing.
Okay. I thought it was just like that. There's some. I thought you could just.
Unless
No, but
She's like spying on you.
But
She is actually. She
Angel
would do
shows, I mean, not Angel, Ethan shows a lot of classic symptoms for men with ADHD. And I think if he could get diagnosed with it, I think Ethan could be a very, very productive person, especially with the way that his mindset is. I just wish that he could take his mindset and he could put it to actual use. You know what I mean? And I think you feel the same way about that too, a lot of times from what I've heard you say about it. But yeah. And Kendall definitely needs to see a therapist.
Listen, as long as I don't take any meds, I'm good.
You don't have, it's like, no, you don't, therapists don't diagnose or don't prescribe you meds.
Psychiatric people do.
Psychologists. Psychiatrists.
Yeah.
It can be whoever. It could be the Pope. There's no meds, please.
No, psychiatrists are the ones that prescribe meds, but they also can't prescribe you meds if you don't want them. You have to. They would ask you, and you say yes or no. They can't just make you take something unless you are like unfit to make those decisions. Yeah. But no, therapists don't prescribe you medication. I feel like that's a big misconception from a lot of people. They're there to help you find healthy coping mechanisms that you can use in your day-to-day life that work for you and your specific problems, your specific way of thinking. They also cannot most therapists, because some of them are also psychiatrists, most therapists cannot diagnose you with ADHD, autism, borderline.
They can recommend you to somebody.
They can recommend you to somebody to actually diagnose you with that, but a therapist is literally just there to understand you as a person and get to the nitty-gritty and figure out healthy coping mechanisms for certain things going on in your life. Healthy coping mechanisms being the key word there. So, and that's what I'm saying. I think everyone
what
here...
do you think I do? That's
unhealthy coping mechanisms.
I don't do anything unhealthy.
You don't know that.
You don't know that.
People who do unhealthy things don't see them as unhealthy, so they don't.
Because they've been doing it for so long.
Yeah. Like, if people have been shooting up heroin, do you think they see, like, oh, this is so bad, why do I keep doing this to myself?
Well, it was like I shoot heroin. I didn't.
No, but
it's the same thing.
The way that you manage your anger and the way that you explode at people sometimes is unhealthy. The way that you don't talk about your emotions comes from maybe you've had a parent in your life that has always told you that your problems aren't as important as everyone else's problems. Or so maybe you don't like, that's why you don't like to talk about your stuff. Like, those are the things. And so a therapist would help you kind of realize, like, oh, I do that. Like, why is that a problem? And then they'll sit you down and be like, well, it can lead to you doing this, this, and this. Or a lot of people that do this only do it because somebody else made them feel like they have to. But I think therapy is a really important thing because and having gone through it, a lot of people either don't realize how unhealthy a lot of their habits are, or even if they realize it, they don't know how to fix it. And that's what a therapist can help you do. And so I think,
And sometimes they don't even recommend, like, you do this, and this, as opposed to this. Sometimes you could just straight talk to them, and that will fix your issues. That helped me out a lot, just sitting down and talking to somebody judgment-free. I really don't know them. I can't hang out with them. You know, they don't see what I am. You admit to them what you want to admit to them, however much you want to admit to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like loading it off, and sometimes you speak to them so much that you start just rambling. You say things that you don't realize until it's out of your mouth. Yeah,
sometimes I do that a lot where I like start talking and then like I'll say something and I'm like, I didn't even realize that that's how I felt about that. My issue in therapy, my therapist was Miss Jones, and I love Miss Jones, and she helped me so much through high school. But yes, Miss Sarah Jones. And she helped me a lot through high school, especially when I was moving in with my dad and going to a new school and everything. And I would talk to her about these issues that I'm having, and she would say, well, you know what? It seems like you're very self-aware of what the problem is, you know, and how to fix it. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, so why don't you do it? And I was like, well, I mean, I really don't know. And she's like, well, hold on, because I think you do know, because like we said, you are very self-aware and you know how to fix it. And she was like, what I think the issue is you're so used to people telling you that your problems aren't important enough. And so instead of they help you prioritize yourself. You know what I mean? And you don't realize how important that is until you go through it. And Kendall, I feel like you have a hard time prioritizing yourself too, just because you have like this long-term girlfriend, you have, changing work styles and changing work environments, and then you have just moved out on your own after always being surrounded by big families and having a lot of family members and having a lot of siblings, And I don't think there's ever been a moment in your adult life where things have been solely about you up until this point. And I think it's been kind of stressful for you to admit that to yourself and handle it on your own in a healthy way.
Maybe.
You see what I'm talking about?
What?
You don't empathize with yourself.
Yeah, you don't empathize with yourself.
Not even, yeah.
Or in general.
Yeah.
You're just like womp.
You don't.
I empathize with people.
No, you don't.
Womp womp.
You
That's
literally
what you
gonna tell
say.
someone womp womp. That's literally you.
Yeah. I think you have a hard time empathizing with yourself, and I think you have a hard time empathizing with other people because you don't even empathize with yourself. Like, I think you tell yourself, like, if I'm not even going to get upset about it, why would I get upset for other people? Or whatever else is going on.
And it's fine as long as you fix it and admit it to yourself.
Yeah,
so that you can
but you
start fixing
also have a hard time doing that because you can't even admit that you're depressed. And I've seen how you've been moving the past couple weeks, and you're definitely depressed.
it. Bro, it's okay. We're all depressed.
No, we are.
Yeah, you're not like Superman. You're not Homelander. It's not like we experience emotions. We're emotional creatures. We're
Every
spiritual
single
creatures.
person gets depressed at some point in
Yeah.
their life, at multiple points in their life. I just think that you're so used to being surrounded by people that this new stage in life where you're by yourself all the time and on your own is affecting you emotionally in ways. I think that you were so excited to have your own space, but now that you have it, you don't know what to do with it. And that's why I think that you should see a therapist.
Don't listen to the voices, buddy. Listen to us.
Yeah.
No, I heard fucking noises come over there.
They're the voices.
See, this is the unhealthy coping
I'm not
mechanism.
schizophrenic.
No, this is an unhealthy coping mechanism that you have of whenever people are directly trying to help you, you change the subject.
I'm not trying to- let's get to
You
it.
did.
I was trying to
You did
formulate
this
the words in my
yesterday
head.
too. You did this yesterday too in the group chat because I sent you like 1,000 paragraphs talking about this exact same thing, and then you sent a meme. You sent a reel in the group chat. You have a really bad habit of doing it. You do it a lot.
We deflect, Kendall.
Yeah, you deflect a lot of your issues.
I do it too.
Angel does it
honestly.
too. Yeah. Angel will literally like sit there and like have a screaming match with me and then cry, and then he'll be like, I need pizza, and I'm like, okay, but he can't. But the important thing is that Angel admits that he does it and that it's a problem and that it's something that he's working on. So I think that's what we should do. I think all of us should go back to therapy.
Go back
I
or
could-
send them because
I've
You gotta send-
been thinking about going back. I've been talking about it with my dad about going back. Joseph, a friend of ours, just went back to therapy. And the thing is like he's gonna see this shit. He recently went back to therapy himself, and he I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he signed him. I don't know. He's kind of a private person. I don't know what he talks about in therapy. All I know is that he signed himself back up for it, and I was like, "Oh, how's that going?" And he was like, "I'm making my therapist work for it." Like like he's had sessions with her, but he has not said a single word to her about his actual problems because there's a certain level of trust that needs to be built up in it. So, but the thing is like he's there, he's showing up, and he wants to talk about his issues, but he really needs to feel comfortable doing it. And so,
Sure.
yeah, so he's like, and that's something I need to work on. Like, he's very honest about it. Like, it's going to take a while for you to be comfortable enough with the therapist to have those conversations. But the important part is that you show up and that you're making an effort. You're not making an effort for anyone else. You're showing up for yourself, you know? And I think that's the important thing. You have to show up for yourself. You have to show up to better yourself, because that's what this journey is about. Angel. Now, like I said, I know that Angel's been in therapy. And he's done a lot of work with me in, like, our relationship and stuff, as far as being honest with himself about stuff. So, that's why I kind of went in this direction and saved him for last, just because he has more experience. He's probably going to be more honest with himself. So, I'm curious, Angel, where have you been mentally? What are your concerns with your mental health lately? What are some things that you've been working on? Tell us about it.
I am a little better, honestly. I think, because thinking back to the therapy thing, you know, where I was just, and it wasn't even like important stuff. It was just, you know, little things like, oh my god, like today at work I had to deal with such and such customer, and I had to do, and all that trauma dumping, basically what it was, over little things that didn't really matter, and then getting to the big stuff helped me out a lot. And I don't want to do that with you. I don't want to trauma dump over little things, because we're going to have the same things. And you don't want to hear about the same thing that you dealt with that I dealt with, especially when you do more.
Right.
And deal with it probably twice as bad.
Right.
So, what I've been doing is kind of hopping on the game. And I'm not saying I'm using the guys for it, but I'll hop on the game with the guys, and I'll be like, man, you know, such and such, and then such and such, and then, and then I'm like, man, I feel so much better about this, you know? I feel so much better about my day.
Always
And
help, man.
I've also been, so, yesterday with the whole, you know, me being sour and you pointing it out, I was like, you know what? I am being really sour about it. I am really pissed off. That is true. I'm also starving. You know, and I did my absolute best to look at it in a better perspective, and that helped me out a lot. I took a second to breathe and look at everything, and I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. And we still had fun, too.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I'm still irate over what happened, but
yeah. And the thing
I'm not
is,
going to let it control me.
and I'm really glad you started talking about that too, because this is another good point, which I think that Kendall struggles with a lot too. I know I'm not just shitting on you, Kendall, but this is valid. No emotion, no little emotion that anybody feels isn't valid. Like Angel is like, and it's all this little stuff that doesn't matter, but it all matters. It all matters. And the thing is like, the more that you tell yourself that all this little stuff doesn't matter, then every little thing builds up. And the more and more and more that you get pissed off about, and you're like, man, my whole week was shitty. Man, my whole couple weeks was shitty. And then, like, the next thing you know, your whole month was shitty because you have not been talking about the little stuff that's been going on, you know? And it can come out in such weird ways. Especially, I used to do it a lot, which is why I'm trying to get Angel out of that habit, because it's so bad for you. But I used to do it a lot where, like, a certain joke would bother the shit out of me, and it would stick with me for weeks at a time. Or maybe someone said something in poor taste and they didn't mean it a certain way, but even though I take it personally, and that's the thing, no little emotion is invalid. And it took me so long to learn that, because I used to make excuses like that, you know, where I would be like, well, what happened with this customer doesn't matter. And, you know, someone made this joke and I'm just being sensitive about it, so it doesn't matter. But the more that you do that, the more you take away from yourself. And if you don't allow yourself to process that, because the whole thing is like, if someone makes a joke and you don't find it funny, and if you tell yourself like, oh, well, I know it was a joke, so I shouldn't get upset about it, what you're ignoring is not the fact that it was a joke, because you can always say, hey, I don't really find that funny. You can say that. And it is totally okay for you to say that, but what you're actually doing is lying to yourself about how you feel about yourself. Right? So I used to have people in my life that would make fun of my weight or how much I would eat. And I would get upset about it, and they would be like, well, it's just a joke. So the next thing I knew, I started doing that to myself. Whenever someone makes a joke about it, or someone's like, Kat, you're such a fat ass. Even if they're joking, I take it personally. And the next thing I know, I haven't eaten in 3 days. Do you know what I mean? But what I had to do was take that and be like, you know, that's going to make me hurt myself in the long run. You know that it's going to make me feel a certain type of way when you say that. And when I do that, a lot of people, if they are decent people, will stop making jokes like that. Do you know what I mean? And what I was doing to myself was I was saying, well, it's just a joke, so I shouldn't say anything about it. And I would ignore the fact that what I was actually doing was saying how I feel doesn't matter. And what I was really saying was, this other person making this joke is more important than my physical and mental well-being. And you may not realize it because you're like, well, that's dramatic for me to think about it like that. But it's so true, especially since everyone's sensitivity levels are different. I heard this the other day and I loved it. Everyone's sensitivity levels are different. You know, I could make a weight. I could talk about, you know, me and Angel, we try to work out regularly. We try. I could be talking about that, trying to better myself and saying, well, me and you need to better ourselves, Angel. But Angel could also be exactly happy where he's at physically. Do you know what I mean? And he could be happy where he's at physically, but me saying something about how we both need to work out more could make him be like, well, wait a minute, like, am I not okay physically? And it could change his mind how he feels about himself. So if you ignore it, you are literally ignoring your own thought process. Other people's beliefs and other people's jokes and other people's viewpoints become yours. And that's not how it's supposed to work, you know? Like, and I'm not saying you can't take it with a grain of salt and it can't be constructive because, or maybe when, like, what I've also noticed is I always have, like, a self-esteem issue about my weight. When someone makes a joke about my weight, right? What I am realizing when I get upset about it, what I realize is I really do feel bad about my weight. I could ignore it for as long as I want, but the second someone makes a joke about it and it affects me, I'm like, you know what? I do feel bad about that. That's something that I need to fix. You know? I could lie to myself all day long and say that I don't care how much I eat and I don't care. And the thing is I'm not a big person, but I'm not where I want to be physically. And me being honest with the fact that something bothers me gives me the opportunity to say, I do need to work on that because I didn't even realize how sad I am about it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Y'all switched for some reason. Kendall, your camera's off.
Yeah. I saw
I don't
that
know.
tripped me up.
What the fuck happened there?
Oh, okay.
Fucked it all up, per usual.
But it gives me an opportunity to be honest with myself. So when you push things down, you take that away from yourself. You could be saying like, oh, well, it's just that, you know, for the bit or whatever. And it could be for the bit, but it could also be something where you're like, hey, if something's hurting your feelings, and this is something I learned the hard way too. If something is hurting your feelings and you're not okay with people making jokes about it, it's because you're not okay with it. It's because you're not being honest with yourself about how you feel about it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way, especially because, like, I used to be in a relationship where people would come up to me and be like, that's a really shitty relationship. And I would get so defensive and I would be so upset when other people thought that. And I would push that down, that feeling down. And the more and more I heard it, the more that it forced me to be honest with myself. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm so hurt because I know that it's true. I think it hurts my feelings because I actually feel the same way. You know? Because if I didn't feel the same way, I would just brush it off. I would just brush it off and be like, well, I don't really care what anyone else thinks. Like, I'm totally happy where I'm at, but I wasn't, you know? And so you have to be honest with yourself. And I think that's really important. And I hate when people are like, oh, it's just like this little thing. Like, I work with a bartender, and she comes up to me, she rants all the time, and she's like, this is so stupid, like, people have actual problems. I'm like, there's no one in the world that can tell you that your shit's not important. And it could be something, it may not affect you long term, but you not talking about it will affect you long term.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like,
and I think that's so important.
And that's what I was gonna say is, you know, I said it's stuff that doesn't matter. What I mean to say is it's stuff that's not affecting me, going to affect me, or continue to affect me. If I'm stuck here at the house, what a customer told me hours ago is not gonna hurt me. If I get called a racial slur at work and it bothers me, I'm gonna come over here, talk to someone about it, and we're gonna make jokes about that person. You know, like, they're probably upset because, you know, and now I feel better about it. But if I just keep that in me, like, man, that happened today, but I don't think Kat wants to hear that today because I'm sure her day was worse than mine.
Yeah, then he's putting off his own emotions for my sake. But what ends up happening is he's holding on to all of that, and in a month, he could have a big outburst at me or at somebody else.
And it's at the worst, that's the worst possible moment, too. She
Yeah.
could be, like, her day has been terrible and she wants me to help her out. I don't see it as helping out because sometimes her tone is not what she means to be.
Yeah, or he could be like, well, or I could come to him and be like, I want to rant about this thing that happened at work. And if he is in a bad mood, he's like, well, I never rant to you about my stuff. No one told you to do that. You know, it's unfair to everyone else when you're not honest about where you're at mentally. Does that make sense? Like, I think we kind of had that conversation the other day, too.
Yeah, I've also started, like, stopping my thought process the second she says you're acting this way. And then looking at it and then going,
Yeah. I'm not saying that, like, if someone is talking... I'm not saying that if it bothers you, it's not true. What I'm saying is, if it's bothering you, you need to talk about it with somebody. You need to be honest about it. Either be honest with yourself or be honest with your partner or be honest with your family, whatever it is. But if you're not honest about it, it's going to hurt you in the long run, and it's going to hurt everyone around you in the long run. And that is so important to realize.
even if you...
Ethan.
Even if you talk to a stranger, like if you just hop on the game and you have a conversation about it with a random person, one, you don't know that person, so they're not gonna go, you know, if you want to rant about Becky because Becky cheated on you, they're not gonna know who the fuck Becky is. They're not gonna go relay that information to Becky. You know, but that's also how comfortable do you feel telling a stranger online, whether it be a game, whether it be, you know...
I mean, even then, that part is not the important part, because again...
But you have to get it out, is what I'm getting at.
You can talk about it with yourself. There are many ways to deal with these kinds of things. Like, a lot of people, when they don't trust anyone but themselves, they journal it, you know? Or if they want to talk to their friends about it, then they talk to their friends about it. Or some people seek therapy because they don't have a lot of people that exactly understand their situation. Which kind of leads me into my next subtopic. I wanted to ask you guys, I just want to hear about one from each, because I know it's hard to pinpoint one, at least it is for me, because I do these kinds of things a lot. But I want to hear one thing from everyone that is a healthy coping mechanism that y'all have been doing this year to help with all the changes that we've been going through. Me personally, I have been super overwhelmed because I'm working the 2 jobs and I do this and I still have to do my stuff at the house and I still have to go grocery shopping and just all of these different things. So I have been using a scheduling app. I know y'all are tired of me talking about my scheduling app, but right now that is my healthy coping mechanism because it allows me to put my thoughts down. Does that make sense? It allows me to be like, I don't have to think about this thing anymore. It's right here, you know? Instead of keeping all those tabs open in my brain of I have to do this and this and this and this and this, and I have to remember I have to be at this job at this time and this other job at this time, and what am I going to do? I just put it down. and I schedule it. I have like a scheduling app that's like hour by hour, and it just allows me to really make time for everything. Because the more I get overwhelmed, the more lazy I get, really. Or the more I'm like, well, I'm so overwhelmed with all these things, I just need to take a minute. And it makes me so exhausted trying to do it all. So using my scheduling app has been helped me like stay on top of all of my stuff and like really like feel like I have time for everything, because I procrastinate whenever I get overwhelmed, and that's a really unhealthy thing that I do, if I'm being honest with myself. So that's how I've been fixing it this year. I'm gonna go in the same order. Ethan, what is one healthy coping mechanism that you've been using this year? Healthy coping mechanism.
Ouch.
Also, if anyone tries to throw anything out there that is an unhealthy coping mechanism, I will be calling you out on your shit. So, what you got?
Yeah.
How have you been dealing with your stuff? What have you been doing for you to better yourself as a person?
Honestly, I just take time to myself, and like not maybe like I just go like in the area where it's just me, and maybe I'll just like sit outside, like, hear the wind and think or whatever. But sometimes I'll listen to music and think. But I just try to find a spot where I know I'm not going to be bothered, probably or however long. And I just kind of try to think, like, okay, well, instead of mashing your head about it, instead of like freaking out so much, it's like sit there and think about it and really go, well, what can you do? Like, well, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you need to do, or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I usually try to find like a solace place.
Try to think about it thoroughly.
Yeah, really like evaluate before I just like, whoa, and then try making all these rush to judgment decisions or whatever. You're just rushing making decisions.
That's a good one. Kendall, what's one healthy coping mechanism you've been using this year to better yourself as a person?
Well, my coping mechanism is actually doing recently take walks outside. You know,
Like exercise?
Yeah, exercise, I guess, but it's supposed to taking walks. Like, what I do is like.
Well,
go
taking
outside.
walks is still cardio.
Yeah, you're getting that working.
Yeah.
Getting that work
Exercise is a healthy coping mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to be doing more exercise or?
Yeah, exercise.
Exercise?
Exercise.
That's
Actually,
such a hard word.
Exercise? No, it doesn't. My apartment.
Oh, my lord.
Sorry. My apartment has a gym right at the entrance, so I go over there on my off days. Used to try to anyways. And also, I've started going back to writing. I used to type stories out on an app called Wattpad. I want to get back into that and drawing and stuff like that.
Oh, like hobbies, because I was going to say, like, writing, like, journaling, or, because if you're writing fiction stories, I don't see how that's, but if you mean, like, finding new hobbies, then that is okay.
Yeah, that's also one more thing. I guess finding hobbies on
Well, writing, if you're writing fiction, it's not really a coping mechanism, it's just something you're doing on the side. So the point is, why are you writing? Why are you drawing?
I
feel like it can be coping mechanism is like
Trying to be creative.
He's taking some kind of negative energy and turning it into creative energy as opposed to turning it into anger or
Well,
sadness.
that's my question, is why is he doing those things? Because he's not saying he's doing them to help with anything, he's just saying he's doing them. If you're doing them but you don't know why you're doing them, then you're just doing things just to do things.
Well, Angel pretty much took my answer.
You're muted.
Oh, son of a bitch. Anyway, guys.
You're muted again, I don't know what you're doing.
Hold on, what's going on?
Alright, so basically, like, I got a lot of stuff in my mind, a lot of things I think about, a lot of things, like, and I want to get them out on something, whether a piece of paper, on the screen, or maybe on music. You know, and trying to find a way, because I'm thinking of a lot of things. Every 24/7, I'm just thinking about just random shit. I was like, damn, this will be really good on some sort of media. Something like that. So yeah,
That doesn't really sound like it's a coping mechanism for anything, though. It's still just kind of you just wanting to do things. A lot of people could argue that you doing creative things is because you feel like you have no sense of control in any other area of your life. So, like, you having an insignificant job, or you having no control in what happens, like, in relationships or on your spare time or, like, in life in general. A lot of people think that, like, writing, drawing, like, all those kinds of creative things, it's a coping mechanism for feeling like just doing, like, having control over something. You have control over what happens to your characters. You have control over what it is that you draw. Like, you're the one making those kinds of decisions. So it could be a coping mechanism for you always being the one being told what to do, or, you know, like jobs like what you basically have, or like a lot of people feel that way in the workplace, like in America, because it's a big problem in America. So a lot of people who like to do creative things like that, it's their way of taking control of their life, or the little things that you can control in your life. Would you say that that's accurate at all?
Yeah.
So then that's why it's your coping mechanism. It's not that you can't not want to do things. You can absolutely want to do things without there being like an existential crisis reason for them. But majority of the time, people do things for a reason. Like for me, I do that a lot. I was always told how to look and what to say and how to think in my old household, and I felt like I had no control over my own life, which is why I do all the creative things that I do now. It's my sense of control, and it's my sense of therapy. And me and you are a lot alike in that way, which is why I definitely understand it, especially since I work a customer service job. Do you know what I mean? And I know your job isn't customer service, but it's very much routine. And a lot of people that work routine jobs like that can end up feeling like that. So, but like I said, I think all of us should definitely have someone to like talk to professionally, because I feel like they would have a lot of insight to that's constructive. Angel, a healthy coping mechanism for the year.
Masturbation.
Okay. I haven't had any up until recently, where I've just been stopping and thinking about it, but that only goes so far, you know? Because you can, somebody's messing with you, purposely messing with you, you can stop to think all you want, but if they push your buttons the wrong way, you're, you know, whatever, does whatever. I've been looking into doing stuff. I've been wanting to finally jump into cooking, because I've been telling myself that's something that I want to do. And because of, you know, finances or just timing and things like that, I haven't actually been able to jump into it. I want to take my stress, my frustration, and turn it into something else, you know, because I understand that I'm not the only person in the world that gets stressed out, but it's really hard for me to project that, you know. I focus a lot on, you know, my downtime, but that ends up being somebody else's workload that they have to do. In your case, in our case, it'd be you. I cannot do that. It would be nice. I would feel great if, you know, instead of, you know, and maybe it gets me into a routine that I need to do, you know, where I get home, I, you know, start cleaning the place up, because I don't want to clean in a dirty environment, and then I start cooking. Right. And then you get home and you're like, everything's done, and I get to eat, and we just go to bed, or do whatever it is we need to do. And
but
then
unfortunately, you know, life is not like that.
And it's not like that, you know, but it could help. I want to turn this stress into something
productive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's the exact opposite of how me and Kendall cope with stuff. For you, you feel like you have no sense of control. Ethan, what the
I'm
fuck?
so sorry. I don't know how to.
God damn it. Every day.
Muted and went off.
God. Anyway,
Only
I feel like that's the exact opposite of what me and Kendall do. Like, I feel like me and Kendall want to be creative in order to have some sort of sense control. I think, not that you're not a creative person, but I think for you, your coping, the things that you want to do as far as coping, is very step by step. It's very instructional. And I think it's because you personally, you struggle with a sense of accomplishment. I think that you personally, you struggle with saying, like, I was able to complete this thing and I did it the best way that I can. And it's done completely right. I think you struggle a lot with that and feeling like the job that you did is good enough. So I think that's why, like, cooking wise, I think that's why you want to do something that's step by step and then sharing it with other people for that sense of validation. So everyone else can say, oh, this is really good. Angel, you did such a good job. And it's not that that's wrong in any way, but it's, for you, you're all about other people, so it's almost like you get a sense of accomplishment and you get to share it with other people. I feel like that's a two birds, one stone.
It's like other people. I ain't gonna lie, I be relating with them on a lot of shit like that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of stuff.
And it's not that it's unhealthy at all, but as long as you understand that you're doing it for yourself, not for other people. And it's, yeah, and because other people may not like your cooking, and it's not, yeah, that's not horrible.
I won't.
He's like, no, they're gonna like it after.
But
No.
it's so important, I think, to say, this is what I need to do. I finish something. I finish this project. You know what I mean? I think that's the important part.
That is that too, because I'll be like, okay, I have to start this and finish it, and then I'll start it, and then months later I'm like, that's still there, isn't it? You know, that's terrible.
Yeah, and I think that's also because of your ADHD. You start a lot of projects that you don't finish because you get so unmotivated. Ethan does the same thing. Yeah, which is why I think Ethan really needs to talk.
So
to
we know you have it then.
No, we don't know. You should never. You should never ever say that you have something if you're not diagnosed. You can suspect, but don't just claim you have it if you don't know. If you think that you should be diagnosed with something, please go see somebody who is qualified to make that assumption, because it could be something that's similar but also completely different. You know?
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say about that. I think this was really constructive, you guys. Kendall.
Huh?
Get that wheel ready, buddy.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
Please.
Yes. I think this was really constructive. Does anyone else have any advice for anyone that may be struggling mentally?
Talk about it. Like, I think the biggest.
Yeah, the best thing to do is just talk about it, not keep it hold in like a bottle cap.
You're one to fucking talk.
Yeah.
You do that more than all of us.
Fuck you. Well, still good advice I'm giving. Fuck you then.
Yeah.
Follow your own advice.
Yeah,
Following
everybody's
Follow
terrible
your
at
own-
taking their own advice, so.
my phone just goes.
Yeah. I think that's really good, you guys. Go ahead and spin that wheel, Kendall.
What is going on? My phone is completely froze.
Oh, God.
My phone is like actually not working.
Speaking
I
of,
turned my phone off and it's not turning off.
no
What is
fucking
going
way.
Haha.
Add again.
No, do it again.
Do it again. If it's me, it's meant to be.
No, it's not. I swear to fucking shit. No! Angel.
on? That's
No.
what I'm about to order, actually, coincidentally.
Nice. Wingstop.
Love Wingstop. All right, guys. This was a really,
overrated.
really great episode. I think we all had a lot to say. That being said, if anyone who is listening has been struggling with their mental health or has any healthy coping mechanisms that they'd like to share, or any questions for us and how we may be able to help you guys, leave them in the comments below. We would love to read them and we'll do an episode on them for you guys. You can find this podcast on Spotify and on YouTube. Make sure you check out everyone's socials. They will be put in our individual little cubicles. And with that being said, we will see all of you guys next week.